Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Jay Brightlow. I'm the owner of Orlando Host and Grand Welcome of Greater Orlando. I just want to touch base with an update with what we're seeing in the market into beginning of 2025. This would be an extension of the last video that I did, as well as look at what's like when the market will be stabilizing and a couple suggestions to make. So bear with me as I kind of move through this. So let's start off with some good news. Short-term rentals are gaining share in the U.S. again. So you're definitely seeing in October of 2020 where things really started to increase. Of course, this was COVID. People weren't staying in hotels, so they were traveling together. We do see that larger homes in particular in 2021, end of 2020, really spiked as people were starting to we're quarantined together for travel. So that's good news. We are starting to see some slow and steady return. But let's just talk like macro. Like where are the markets where we're really seeing ADR spike? And the answer is not many. The only cases where we're really seeing ADR spike, and this is your average daily rate, is places where regulations came in and they shut like everybody down outside of like a couple areas. Thinking about like Orange County here in Orlando. Orange County like has only these little pockets that are short-term residential zoned. So this would be analogous, like, okay, all of Orange County was running and they were, they really weren't enforcing rules. And then all of a sudden, Buddy Dyer comes in and says, okay, now we're going to start enforcing these rules and only these certain pockets can actually rent. This is essentially what's happened in San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, the East Coast. I'm sorry, the West Coast out in California. But yeah, New York City was definitely a big story. So unless like the government has come in, you see Orlando down towards the right, where supply and demand. Demand is the blue. Supply, you can see it got cut off here. Supply is the light purple. So we are seeing in Orlando, we really want to see that be opposite, where supply is going down and demand is peaking. It's really the same in Orlando. Just FYI, inflation, what we're seeing right now, inflation is at 2.75%. I just want to put this out there as a placeholder for things to come. We definitely were around 9% in 2022. To go with that, we know that mortgage rates. Big thank you to AirDNA, I've just been on a lot of webinars and Q&As with them. So a lot of this data comes from AirDNA directly. But you're seeing where the previous forecast, which is the purple, right? And then the current forecast. So now what they're doing is they're starting to bring in the Trump administration. What's that going to do with the interest rates? So we're starting to see like, okay, well, interest rates we're going to cut down, but now we've got tariffs coming in, which might, if they're actually implemented, lead to more inflation. Certainly the Chinese travel in particular, because of the trade sanctions that Trump put on once and will probably do again. There's this big shift in the Chinese traveler in particular, like a 14% drop in the Chinese traveler coming to the U.S. because of those sanctions and like general like sentiment, right? So we are starting to see that interest rates, which were forecasted to dive down, are going to even out. That's not such good news. Near-term GDP growth is higher than previous forecasts. So you're seeing peak inflation. We just talked about that 9% in 2022, right? So when inflation was high, GDP was down. So now GDP is coming back up. We still have inflation. And I'd tell you that going a couple slides back, 2.75%. I think we'd all agree that like inflation is still, because of that spike in 2022, still being at 3% of inflation, if that's accurate, is still really painful. So again, what we're seeing with the forecast here is GDP is set to rise on this most recent forecast versus where it was a little bit lower. This is mostly, I believe, The Economist at Oxford University, AirDNA saying Trump is going to be a little bit more friendly for the economy than maybe the prior administration. By the way, this is political. This is just purely stats and numbers and forecasts. You can pause this if you'd like. I'm not going to read this, but here's the key takeaways from Oxford Economics with why the economy, GDP, is set to go higher. You can pause this if you'd like. At the bottom, higher rates and volatility are normal. So anytime volatility is high, you're going to have a nervous traveler. A nervous traveler is going to spend less, and you're going to see that upcoming slide as well. All right, so this is an important slide to consider. What we're seeing is that the light purple says all these homes are coming on the market. I'm sorry, the light purple is the ADR going higher. And so everybody saw this in 2021. Whoa, like short-term rates are absolutely astronomical. They're through the roof. And so then RRI, which is the return of the traveler, basically like people who are coming back all the time. So what we start to see is that's moving up, and then it's moving down. So what's happening is that what this graph is essentially telling us is that the return traveler, with that going down, that means that there's more demand coming online, and that means that what's happening is that that as the new homes are coming online, because of the promotions and the algorithms and all these things that have to happen, the only way to get towards the top is to drive occupancy. Well, how do you drive occupancy? With affordable listings. So that's what's saying in the middle. Affordable new listings is bringing the ADR down. But people got into this and everyone's excited because they're seeing all this ADR high and they want to capture it. So unfortunately what happened is you had this glut of supply that came online. A lot of long terms transitioned to short terms, a lot of new investors. And what happened as a result of that is, now you had the established ones, they kind of held where they were at, but a lot of those established people saw these big prices going up and they said, oh, well, we're going to get out. So this is unfortunately what has happened. Now you do start to see, and we've got another slide coming, that 2026 is where things start to level out. So really what we're looking at is these huge highs and lows and big swings and volatility. Inflation prices are high and interest rates are high. And so this just makes the traveler nervous, makes our homeowners nervous. We do have stabilization coming. It's just not here right now. Really, really, really important slide. So I want to make sure that we look at this. Lower tier hotels peaked in 2021. And then lower tier hotels, which is your yellow, we're seeing that's the one that is currently going down. So why is that important? What this tells us is that the budget traveler, right, was going to hotels back in the day. And guess what the budget traveler is coming to now? Your short-term rental. So the luxury and the upscale people initially weren't going to hotels. Now they are. So this is a big, big, big theme to remember for coming into 2025. We have the budget traveler. We have the economic-minded traveler that is coming to Orlando. They're coming across all short-term rentals in general. As a result, because that drives the quality of the traveler down, that drives the quality scores down, that drives the ADR down. It just has created a bit of this cycle that we're all feeling right now in the industry. So what we're hoping for is the return of the luxury traveler, but they're just not there right now. The hotel industry in general has done a good job seeing this, catering to those higher level people. So that higher ADR is still out there. It's just being captured by the hotel industry. Okay, yeah, here's an actual, here it actually is. So what we're seeing in those 6-bedroom homes, okay, the budget traveler is the blue, the luxury traveler is the green. So we're seeing that budget traveler coming into those 3, 4, 5, 6-bedroom homes. The really high dollar person, they just want like the studios, they want the 1-bedroom. That's all they want. Nobody really wants the private or the shared, certainly not the luxury one. So again, the green, that's your luxury traveler staying in studios and 1-bedrooms. So these are going to be your short-term rentals that feel like a hotel. Then you get into these bigger homes, and this is absolutely where Orlando is. You see this huge spike in blue. This is the budget traveler coming in, driving those rates down closer to those 1-2-bedroom prices. So we actually had a last-minute booking come in at one of our larger homes at a 2-bedroom price this week. That's just what Mr. Market's telling us. So very, very, very important to understand this investing a whole bunch of money into theming and throwing a whole bunch of money like into high-end furnishings, just like that return just isn't there right now. How can you provide more for the guest at less price to you? This is what we need to think about. So here's the thing that I want to focus on for this. When we look at Orlando, where's the growth? When is the growth set to hit? We're seeing this in 2026, right? The resort locations start to pick up in 2026. So you can pause this and take a look at it. But again, this is the spaghetti model, what we're seeing, that large urban area. So what we are at is, when you look at this, the destination resort coastal, it's sort of Orlando. The destination resort mountains, that's not us. But you do see the destinations in both of those starting to peak in 2025 slowly and into 2026. Okay, so here's probably the most important slide I want to, actually no, there's more important ones coming up. But so here we are at 2020, average Airbnb listings, you're seeing it go nice steady growth, huge jump in 2022, 2023, smaller growth in 24, 25, 26. So that growth is finally slowing down with the number of available listings. Now, here's what we want to look at. Go a little bit further down. Occupancy, you see the spike in 2021. You see it falling to 23. Your ADR changes in 2020, huge 10% change. 2021, more growth on top of growth. 2022, slowing considerably and then going negative into 2023. When you consider that inflation was at 9.6% from the previous slide, those numbers are crushing. ADR numbers are crushing because that hurts what that does is I get a bill from the pool vendor, and the pool vendor charges me $125 for almost nothing. Materials and time, gas, all these things add up and goes into your bill. So we have to consider, like, where is this all starting? Where does this start? And so I think inflation is just the single biggest driver. All these things: international travel, the return of the cruise industry, the type of traveler who's traveling. So the increase in ADR of only 2.1% in 2026 it's challenging to look at that and see that. RevPAR, the bottom number, I'll quickly hit on this. So this is basically saying the total amount of income that you have in your home. So 10.2% increase, 21% increase in 2021 is just absolutely insane. And then we're seeing those numbers absolutely bottom out in 2023, 8.5% down. It's really just hard to fathom how bad 2023 was. We are seeing some RevPAR coming up. Now, one thing that we can do is we focus on, you can't necessarily affect the ADR of the home. The ADR is going to be the ADR. The market sets the ADR. What we can do is we can affect occupancy. So we can go a little bit under ADR, measured amount lower, to capture more occupancy. Now, the downside to the increase in occupancy is the wear and tear, blah, blah, blah. For the most part, wear and tear is less of an issue for us when you consider just how much money occupancy brings in. Now, it does hurt, but it's not, when you consider that you just can't jack your rates because it's not there, what do? We have to strive for more occupancy. So really important slide there. Okay, so here's some data. Demand is looking softer for February and March. We are seeing February and March numbers come in. The January numbers, as I mentioned on the prior video, was bad. Right after January 1st hits, which is right where we're at now, demand just falls off a cliff. ADR falls off a cliff in January, and that starts to spike back up nicely in February and March. But we are seeing in Orlando, this is Orlando specific, okay? We are seeing softer February and March data. I'll leave that there for just a moment. Okay, here's what I want to focus on, the Airbnb review score. So Airbnb, back in early 2024, gave some, what I thought was just lip service to, we're really focusing on quality scores. What they did is they went through and they geolocated all these homes that have multiple Airbnb listings. So some of our homeowners like have an old listing that they've like kept active for whatever reason. Airbnb has absolutely hammered down on those, and you can see this spike where you're at 4.71, right? And then all of a sudden those numbers go up to almost 4.8. How do you get a spike? Because you're taking all the duplicates, you're taking all the bad review scores. People who just would take, oh, I got a couple bad reviews, so I'm going to shut this page down and open up a new one. Airbnb won't let you do that anymore, and that's what you're seeing for the spike here. So, in short, Airbnb is our best friend, and in some cases our worst friend. But they are very actively watching the market for underperforming homes. Okay, forecasts. So this is what I really want to focus on. Again, you see this growth in available listings. So available listings, so year-over-year change, we're seeing this huge increase and then drop off. Everybody's shutting down in COVID. Things open back up. Everybody's traveling. And then they started to see, okay, RevPAR is not there. ADR is not there. So available listings are falling. Now, you do have that Airbnb scrub that happened here recently. You can see a little peak there right before it goes to the green, right? So we are seeing the available listings go down, which is helpful. When the available listings go down, that's going to spike our opportunity for us to pass demand. So we are starting to see that stabilize in 2026. It is still going to go down in 2025. So 2025 will not be a great recovery year. What this means for me is if you're holding your home and you're hopeful for something to recover, you're not going to have a huge recovery. You'll have a small recovery. And the best we can do is say that guests are still coming here. There is still moderate increase in demand, not substantial. Let's drive occupancy, and I've got some suggestions for that. But if you're looking to get into the industry, you probably have another 6 months where prices are going to be falling in these heavy STR industries to get in before the stabilization spike, small spike and stabilization coming up in 2026. Kind of the same thing here, right? So all the post-COVID gains were wiped out. It actually went underneath. We are still underneath that average occupancy rate of 56%, going back 5 years now. It's crazy. So 2 years, we're going to, again, nice stabilization. We are seeing this blip in 2025, and that's what I mentioned. We do have a little blip in Q1 of 2025, and then things should start to slowly increase from there. But my reason for doing this is to give you as much data as possible. So STR investability, this is kind of what I just said, right? What we're looking at basically is looking at profits. So as the blue line spiked up recently, the mortgage premiums went up. What happens is mortgage premiums kept going up, ADR went down, and so at the bottom of this, like basically profitability, which is the orange blocks, it bottomed out in October 2023. Slight increase coming, but nowhere near the fat that we saw back in 2021. Just important to remember that. Like if you're looking for like when are things ever going to spike back up, they're not going to spike. It's going to be a slow crawl back up to profitability. Okay, here's the suggestions. If you stayed with me this long, thank you. Demand is up minimally in Orlando. Between 3 to 5% in December and January of last year. Demand for February was down 6% compared to last year. That was the numbers that I got about a month ago, and we're seeing those same numbers, about 5.4% lower now. Please consider making adjustments to capture as many people as possible to help you potentially capture more bookings. So what we're looking at in Orlando, a booking window of 50 to 60 days. Some of you have early bird discounts turned on. I'm going to highly recommend that we go from a 5% early bird discount to a 10% early bird discount. Let's get those travelers, let's get the luxury people, let's get the planners, those people who are invested in their trip, and they're not going to be the people who destroy your home. Let's try to capture as many of them as possible. So we've begun to implement more early bird specials. 90 days is sort of what Airbnb recommends. 120 is sort of what my pricing guys are looking more at. I like the 90 days, honestly, because if your booking window is 60 days, and that's where things start to decrease in value from 60 to 30 days, you're okay. But when you get into the last like month of reservations, we're relying on on the ADR falling. So my recommendation, every night that goes by, so today's January, early January. So if we're looking at July 4th, we've got 6 months. But every day that goes by, that July 4th booking is going to lose a little bit of value. We had one of our homes in Margaritaville that was booked in July for Christmas, and they ended up canceling. So the owners, due to the cancellation policy, got a full payout on this. I want to say that their revenue per night was somewhere around 300 or maybe 250. After that reservation got canceled and cleared from the schedule, we priced it right at market value. Market value 1 week before check-in over Christmas was $133. So, but if occupancy was up near 90-95%, that wouldn't be the case. But because occupancy is so low, because there's such supply and demand has been so low, that's why those prices are low. So we want to capture as much as possible. I highly recommend, if you're one of my clients, respond to this video, let me know that you want to go to 2-night gap fills. In part, I don't love 2 nights either. It does open it up to the weekend warrior, but 40% of the search volume is just being done on 2 nights, even if people are looking for a week. So I highly recommend at least a 2-night gap fill because it just opens you up to views. And then again, early bird. So I'd recommend 90 days and a 10% discount from anything that anybody who's booking 90 days forward. Let's lock those people up. Let's not lock them up. Let's put them on your schedule. If you guys have any questions about this, please let me know. Respond to this email. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. You guys, Happy New Year.